Wonderful. Well, welcome to our workshop today, January 24th. We are back for the second year of the School Garden Mentorship Program. And today we're going to be talking about establishing a school garden culture. And we're recording the presentation. Again, if you don't want to have a recording, you can leave your camera off, but we always like to see faces so we're not speaking into the abyss. And this recording will be available on our YouTube channel. So I would just like to start off by acknowledging that I am presenting today from the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Coast Salish people, including the Wasanic, Lekwungen, and Wyomith people. Tessa, do you want to show your territory?
Yes, thanks, Addie. Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to be here today. I'm calling in from the traditional unceded territory of the Cowichan Nation. My home's just up the banks from the Coxsara River and down from the Mount Zuhalem. It's a wonderful place to be. So thanks for coming in today, and I'm excited to be here as well.
So just to introduce Tessa, Tessa's going to be running the mentorship series this year with me. Marcus is now the provincial manager. Yay, Marcus. So he's not going to be joining us again if you were here with us last year. Yeah, so welcome, Tessa. My name is Addie DeCandle. If I haven't met you yet, I am the food literacy advisor for Farm to School BC and a teacher here in SD 62 in the Langford Colwood area on Vancouver Island. And I teach grade 2 part-time, which is really fun. Yeah, so we're going to give you a little bit of information about Farm to School BC, just to make sure that everybody knows who we are as an organization. So
Thanks,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Thanks, Addie. Before I launch into Farm to School BC, I'll just introduce myself as well. I am the Central Island Community Animator with Farm to School BC. I am also a teacher as well as a farmer. And so I love my role as a community animator, that I get to intersect my experience as a teacher, as a farmer, as a community coordinator, and bring it all together. So I'm really excited to be able to be talking about school gardens all year with you and supporting you as the year moves on and helping your gardens thrive. Before we jump into the workshop today, we have a bit of a preamble, especially because this is the first workshop. We want to make sure we're all on the same page. So first of all, Farm to School BC, if you're not familiar with us, we are a program that brings healthy, local, and sustainable food into schools across British Columbia and provides students with hands-on learning opportunities while strengthening the local food system and enhancing school and community connectedness. We have 3 main pillars of our work, the first being healthy local food, the second being hands-on learning, and the last being school and community connectedness. We have been an organization for 16 years now. Wow. And over that time, we've had 300 programs funded across BC through our work and supported 22 different school districts. We are a program of the Public Health Association of BC, and Public Health Association has multiple programs, 2 others being iBoost Immunity and Kids Boost Immunity. One of the ways that Farm to School BC supports Farm to School programs is we have 8 different regional hubs across BC. So here's a quick map showing you where the hubs are and also showing you the school districts that we support in each hub. In each hub, there is an amazing community animator. Community animators, I think of as the heart of the Farm to School BC program. And here's a quick overview of headshots of our community animator team. If you're a community animator on the call right now, maybe you could give a wave, say hello. It's great to have a few of them joining us today. If you're curious if your school lines up with one of these regional hubs and has a community animator support your project, take a look on our website and you can get a closer look at the hub areas and who our animators are. And please reach out. As an animator, I get so excited when a teacher reaches out to me asking for support. So please let them know what you're working on in the area. That was a little bit about Farm to School, and I'm going to pass it back to Addie to share a bit more about our School Garden Mentorship Program.
So we're wondering, what are you hoping to learn from this program? Why are you here today? And hopefully, why have you signed up for future workshops? You can just open up the chat and we'll have them pour in. I'm not going to talk about too many of them because it's kind of more for our information, but we're curious why you're here.
Okay, well, I will go. This is my second year at the school, Heisler Community School. And when I got here, of course, first thing I do is snoop through every single room and walk around the buildings. And I found that they had a garden with a greenhouse. Now, apparently it hadn't been touched for nearly 17 years. The greenhouse was basically falling down. So my 6, 7s and I, we decided that we were going to go down and we were going to rehabilitate the garden. So we started that last year. And we actually made a pretty good go of it. We managed to grow quite a few tomatoes and carrots, potatoes, beans, things like that. So this year, this is the first time we've gotten a grant. So this year we're going to buy a greenhouse and take it to the next level. So last year we also did a lot of the sprouting of seeds for the daycare all the way through the entire school. So that really helped, and every kid participated. My class, they all had little buddies in each class that they would help plant and then take them to the garden and put their seedlings into the ground. And so, yeah, it was a pretty good success. So we're hoping now that with a real greenhouse that's supposed to be year round, that we can do exactly that. We can grow year round. And then if that works out, next year we'll get another greenhouse and keep going from there. So it's been successful so far. So the entire school and the daycare is involved in this.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Alex. Looks like some other people in the chat are wondering about how to work with a teacher inquiry program. Oh, cool. With teacher wellness. Awesome. Other people would like to kind of more hands-on steps, concrete steps to establish the garden, who they need to talk to. Awesome. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Losing steam. Oh, it's hard. It's hard when things lose motivation. Great. All right. So if anybody else wants to share anything, we can type it in the chat. And we're going to move on to information about an overview of the program. So this year, we have 8 workshops. We're not running the summer ones anymore. We had kind of low turnout for those, which is totally fine. We were just trying it out. So we have established all of these 8 dates. So when you go, obviously you sign up for today, you can pick and choose which ones you'd like to, which topics are relevant for you. So if you are new this year, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. Thanks for coming. There are a few changes, as you noticed. So we've moved some of the content earlier in the year than it was last year. We had some feedback in the fall that it was a little late information for things. So you might notice that the same topic is in the earlier months. And we also have shifted around. They're not the 3rd Tuesday of the month. We've moved the dates around depending on when things need to happen and around holidays and produce and things like that. And we welcome you to read the descriptions of the workshops carefully. So if you already have a garden, great. Maybe you don't need to come to the garden design workshop because that's already kind of established. If you're really interested in seed saving, you could just come to the September one. So make sure that you are just reading the descriptions and making sure that you, I mean, obviously we want you to come to all of them, but we don't want to you to be disappointed if it's, you know, you already know the information. You don't feel like you need to come to that one necessarily. The workshop series in general is each workshop is going to contain a presentation by Tessa and myself. We're going to provide resources to support your school garden. And we're also going to alternate. We're not doing it this time because we wanted to provide an overview of the program. We're either going to profile a school garden or have a guest speaker. So next month, for example, we're going to have a guest speaker. And then the month after that, we'll have a school garden, et cetera, kind of alternating. But, you know, things change. So we might always, as educators, need to be a little bit flexible. So maybe we'll have 2 guest speakers in a row, depending on what the topic is. So we also have something new this year. Last year we had breakout groups in most, if not all, of the workshops. And through our feedback sessions, we heard that they were kind of hit and miss. It depended on who was in the room, how long they were a little short, they were a little long. It was a little bit tricky. So we're not going to have any breakout rooms in the workshops anymore, but instead offer discussion group. So the workshops will always be on Tuesday, and the following Thursday, so not in 2 days, but on February 2nd, will be the discussion group about the topics that we talk about today. So they're going to be themed discussions. So for example, on the 2nd, we're going to be talking about navigating school district policy and how to form school garden committee, or anything that you want to talk about the committee for the school garden. It is going to be a bit more informal, so kind of like a breakout room, and it'll be the same time. So you don't have to come to the workshop to go to the discussion group, and yeah, we hope to see you there.
And do we have to register for those discussion groups?
Yeah,
And
it'll be the same thing.
okay, I did not see the registration for the discussion groups.
I will share the link in the chat right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. It's on the website for those folks who didn't get it. We just wanted to reiterate too that the audience for our school garden mentorship program are educators. That's who really needs to be the driving force behind these projects. So if you're a parent, or if you're on the pack, or a community group, or a master gardener, welcome. But we are going to be speaking in educator language. I know there's all these terms and things, and we're not going to explain things necessarily. I mean, please reach out if you need more information, but we're really targeting educators, whether you're classroom teachers, admin, educational assistants. We're kind of working in the school district language. So we have on our website, I'm just copy and pasting this into the chat here. Last year, we had a resource room that was password protected. We decided not to do the password this year. So if you go to this is a screenshot of our homepage, under the School Garden Mentorship Program, there's 2 tabs. So the first one is there's information about each session, and it has the registration links. If you go on the program library, we are going to be referring to it a lot. So we just want to make it really explicit where it is on our page. I shared the link in the chat, but you can always get it from our homepage here. So the second tab, program library, is where you're going to find the recording from today. And there's a link to the YouTube. You'll find the entire presentation, all of our slides. We have a feedback survey and all of our resources that we talk about, and we'll populate them as we go. So by the time you get to October, you're going to have this page is going to be full of every single resource that we mention. If things come up on our listserv, we can put it in here. So this is going to be really helpful to folks. Yeah, thank you. Our listserv, if you haven't joined it, this is a screenshot again on the program information page. You can join the listserv. I just send out reminders that there's a workshop coming up. I'll send out reminders of the discussion group. If folks want to share any resources that they found and are super awesome, full of lesson plans about gardening, awesome. You can send it out to interested educators. And if it gets too much, you can always unsubscribe from it. But we didn't really have that problem last year. Okay, so the 10-month program, our intention of the School Garden Mentorship series is to be with you the whole growing year. So we don't want you to do it all by yourself. We want to create this community, create this network, and support you with resources, because it's really, really hard. We don't want you to do it by yourself. So we want to be here providing tools and skills and resources so that you don't feel that you are alone, because this can be lonely work sometimes. But you're coming to this group who is also doing the work at their own schools across the province. And we're here for you. So we're here to help. And what the lens that we're looking through is that it starts with you, and it'll spread from there. We all have passions. We all want to be here. Nobody is making us start a school garden. We're here because we care. And don't want to advocate for school garden champions that it's an individual. So it's this ripple in the pond. It's starting with you, and it's bringing in colleagues and your students, connecting back into the land and the broader community. So this is going to be really important. And somebody had mentioned earlier that the garden's losing steam. Creating that network around your school garden is going to help it be more sustainable and prevent burnout, because it's really hard work. Okay.
Thanks, Addie, for the program overview. There's so much tied into this school garden mentorship program, the listserv, the discussion group, the website. So thanks, Addie, for kind of giving us a lay of the land of it all. And please feel free to check back in with us if you feel like you're missing one of these components. We're really trying to support you with multiple resources. So hopefully you can navigate that. When in doubt, go to our website because it's all there. But time now to jump into our topic today. We won't always have as long a preamble, but we just really want to make sure we're oriented before we start for this first workshop. So for today, we are going to be talking about building a school garden culture. Like Addie mentioned, this program and specifically this workshop is all about building a team around you to help support a thriving and more sustainable project. So in order to build your team, today we're going to be looking at building a school garden committee. We're going to look at how to set up a committee, who to invite to the committee, how to run committee meetings, what goals you might have for your committee. Once we talk about the school garden committee, we'll move on to talking about what goals you might have for your garden and what types of gardens might align with those goals. Lastly, we'll look out beyond the school setting and look at a broader overview of how the garden can connect to the community around it and the school district more broadly. Again, we're looking at building that team so that the workload can align with your capacity. We really believe that the more excited you are about the project and the more space you make for other people to take ownership and get excited along with you, the more sustainable and the more joyful a project will be. So invite the team in, they'll help you out. Before we get into the kind of nitty-gritty of the school garden committee, we wanted to step back for a minute and take a look at the bigger picture. When you're gathering a team around you, it can be really helpful to know how to articulate what inspires you about this project. We're all here because we believe in the benefit of school gardens, but we need to learn how to communicate that, to build the hype, to build that sense of others' enthusiasm for the project. So we wanted to take a moment to share our inspirations. For me, I came to school gardening through a lens of nature connection. I was working as a backcountry wilderness educator, so I was running these big week-long trips in the backcountry, and I was seeing this incredible benefit of nature connection on students' emotional, social, and academic connections. However, multi-day wilderness trips are not accessible to the majority of youth. And so at the same time I was doing this, I was also working in school gardens, and I was seeing these same transformative aha moments happening in a school garden. In fact, I felt like the school garden was almost like a fast track to nature connection. Students being the eater, being part of the natural system, were really engaging in the science, the wonder, the joy of being part of the garden. And I was seeing these benefit of nature connections happening right in the schoolyard and seeing this accessible to so many more youth than more complicated nature connection trips. So I was sold. I was really excited about school gardens. I moved into that being the majority of my work. So in witnessing this power of school gardens, there's so many stories that come to mind. I think about a student I had with autism that dug up the first potatoes from the ground. I'm like, whoa, that mind-blowing moment that potatoes come from the ground. Or I think about when a group of students came together and all shared a salad that they had collectively grown all the pieces of. Or we had one school garden that was adjacent to a seniors building, and watching the seniors just naturally come down to the school garden and start build those connections with the youth in the garden. I feel like the potential for school gardens are endless. However, we do want to equip you with some of the real succinct ways that we can describe the benefits of school garden. So if you are looking to help convince more people to be part of your team, we want to give you the resources to really share why this work is so important. So on our program library, on our website, where Addie showed you, we have a bunch of research articles. And those articles will help you express how school gardens help children learn, how gardening together can strengthen the ties between school and community, how gardening helps connect students with nature, which is what I was just talking about, how gardening can strengthen children's immune systems, how school gardens can moderate the mood and ease anxiety for students, how school gardens help develop empathy and allows children to practice risks, how school gardens can improve kids' diets. I've never seen kids more excited to eat kale than when they've grown it themselves. So I feel like that in itself is such a wonderful benefit of school gardens. So if you're feeling like you need to gather more people on your team and really promote your work and explain why this work's important, head on over to the program library, and you'll see a bunch of resources to help back that up. But we'd also like for you to share with each other now, what are some of your inspirations? Take a moment, think about what got you into this work. Why are you putting in all this amazing effort into reestablishing, revitalizing, starting a school garden? What has driven you for this project? You want to take a moment in the chat bar and just share with us what has drawn you to school gardens? Why is it important to you? We'd love to hear your thoughts. We'll give you a few minutes to chat in the chat.
We could just, yeah.
In the chat. We want to hear all your voices, but we're quite a few of us on the call sharing this space. So the chat bar is a great way to be able to hear each other while we're also writing our own. So I see the first one coming in. There's little to no agriculture in my region. This project fills my little farm girl heart. Awesome. We all have a little bit of farm in us, I think. Love being in nature and working with plants, totally. Having your hands in the soil. I think not only, I talked about all the benefits it brings to children, it brings those same benefits to us as adults and teachers too. I'm hearing creating hands-on learning, totally. The learning opportunities in the garden are endless. You can connect all the big ideas to it, but in such a hands-on, tangible, approachable way. Food is medicine, for sure. And our background in holistic healthcare leads us to this work as well. Awesome. There's so many great ones going in. Seeing kids interact with nature and see the aha moment, totally, when they dig up their first carrot. Something so magical about growing those root vegetables, pulling them out, especially when they're bright and colorful like carrots or radishes. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to enjoy reading these over, but I'm going to pass it back to Addie because I am aware of our time. Addie, back to you.
Awesome. Thank you. I think it's really important to articulate our why. Megan Zinni has a nice blog post about it, that it's thinking about why we're doing the work that we're doing and why we're showing up. And when we articulate to ourselves, we can be a little bit more clear and be checking in on why we're doing all this work, because it's a lot sometimes. So I mentioned a little bit earlier, but it's very exciting and it feels like you want to do all these things and you get outside with your class and go dig up the field. But we don't want you to do that. We want you to pause. We want you to wait. We want you to gather a team. So instead of just digging up your school field in the middle of the night, which I would like to do, we are going to break it down into a few pieces today. So first, we're going to be talking about forming our garden committee. We don't want you to do this by yourself. At least 3 other people who can bring you in if you're moving schools for long-term success of the project, building that school garden committee, thinking about your goals and articulating them clearly, creating your connections and making sure that they're sustainable is going to lead to a much more robust long-term garden. So I love this quote by James Clear. You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. I am always checking in with this quote. I have it on Post-its all over my house. If you design a good system, you're going to live up to that. So we all know this in the classroom. Let's create the good framework. We create systems and things are going to work a lot better for everyone. So we're going to focus on our committee. So can everybody share, if you feel comfortable, you can raise your hand if you have a committee. I'm curious how many people do. So if you go into the reactions of the bar, there's like a little happy face with a plus sign and it says raise hand. Can you raise your hand if you have a committee? 1, Ted, nice. Aaron, Kristen, Aaron. Oh, Leslie's clapping. Yay. Awesome. Great. Okay. Thank you. You can lower hand. Awesome. So it seems like some people have committees, but most people don't, which is great. So when you are forming your garden committee, I'm so glad you're here. You recruit people because you might be the only one excited about it now, but when you get other people, you can infect them with your passion and your ideas for the garden. So the committee is going to maybe look a little bit different at every school. And it might start primarily as a planning body that is designing and organizing the garden, or it might offer direction if you have a garden coordinator, if you have a prep teacher or somebody else kind of managing the day-to-day garden. The committee's role is going to be making decisions. It might be more planning or operational. Again, it'll depend on your school and the culture there. But all of these people are going to be helping build that puzzle, and it's going to work a lot better when you're not doing it by yourself. When you think about, when you take a step back and look at your own school, you can have a lot of different people on the committee. It doesn't all have to be teachers. It doesn't all have to be admin. It's nice to have a mix, but we do recommend at least 4 people to be on your committee to think about a sustainable long-term garden. So it could be teaching staff, admin, PAC, parents, community organizations, and it might shift depending on what folks are interested in doing and what their passions are. Maybe somebody really likes helping you write grants, and they might be on the committee initially, and then might fade away because they don't actually want to garden. But that's fine. They're great to have on your committee. We love people who are good at grants. Master gardeners are also really great connections. Erin on the call here, she's, I think, come to all of our workshops, really showing how people who are involved with school gardens, it's a really great organization to connect to. But really, whoever wants to help. So if people are excited about your school garden, bring them on your committee. As you get into your committee, we have a worksheet, again, on our resource page. This is a doc file, Microsoft Word file, so you can download it and edit to your needs. I'm going to link to it here so that folks can just pull it up. But again, it's on our website. I'm going to say that a lot. So this document might help you frame some of the conversations because there's a lot of pieces to think about, and you're already teaching all of your amazing human beings. We don't want to add an extra thing on your plate. So hopefully this document might help frame some of those initial conversations. So on this worksheet is we have some who's going to be on the committee, help you do some brainstorming. We have some sample meeting agenda, how to take minutes, how to send them out. And we have some questions for your committee members on this sheet that you could be asking them. Why are they there? Maybe somebody then gets to say, I just want to write grants. I don't want to I don't want to actually garden. That's great information, but you need to ask people that so that they can share. And then it'll help you work towards a collaborative vision. So those visions that you articulated in the chat a few slides ago, if you get everybody sharing their visions, you can create this beautiful collective vision, which is going to be way easier to apply for grants for when you know what you want the garden to look like. Do you want raised beds? Do you want an orchard? Do you want native plants? All of these things are possible, but if everybody's showing up, you're creating those good systems, it's going to be really important and help you down the line. So we're going to move on to goals. I want you to think about these 2 gardens. Oh, shoot. Our formatting got messed up. There's 2 pictures of gardens here, the one on the left and the one on the right. I want you to look at the pictures and think about how are these 2 spaces being used? And write in the chat box. But Ted shared that there's beauty, food, learning, inquiry. Awesome. I love that you started with beauty. They are beautiful, aren't they? They're quite different though. So the left one, Erica is saying a permaculture pollinator garden. The second one, an outdoor classroom. And there are raised beds in the background. First one using to grow herbs and flowers. The second one for produce, structured versus unstructured. Awesome. So we just want to open your mind a little. It doesn't all have to have a chain link fence with raised garden beds. Think about what you want to have in your garden, and you can make whatever you want it to look like, depending on, again, it goes back to your vision. Are you trying to get kids outside? Are you trying to get them to learn about native plants and pollinators and habitat? Or do you want to get outside and play and have more unstructured learning space? Or do you want to be growing a ton of food that's going to go support your culinary program? Every garden is going to look really different. So we're going to show you a couple of other examples, but we need one more great quote from Megan Finney. Thank you. That school gardens, I want you to always remember this. It's easy to get caught up in it. I do the same thing. That school gardens are about so much more than the food they produce. Children's gardens should be designed in playful ways that invite children to feel welcome and included. School gardens are not for adults, they are for children. So thinking about how to incorporate play and inviting them to be in the space is going to make your space, your garden, a space that the students want to be in.
Addie, we've had a quick technical difficulty. Our next slide did not come up in PowerPoint, so I'm going to do a quick stop share, and I'm going to pull up our next slide in Google Slides, and we will see it there. So just give me one moment for our next slide.
No worries. We all know how to be flexible.
Okay, some glitches with Google Slides to PowerPoint, it seems like, as it goes. But I didn't want to miss out on this next slide because I think there's a lot we want to share in it. So we'll just start from here. Addie, are you seeing the slide that we wanted to talk about?
Yeah, thanks, Tessa.
Okay, perfect.
Do you want to talk? I feel like I've been talking for a while. Do you want to introduce the ones on the right?
Sure, I'll jump in.
Okay.
Addie and I wanted to share a couple examples of gardens that think outside of the garden box, just to kind of open our mind early on in this design process of what a school garden could be. And so I shared two pictures, the two pictures on the right-hand side from a school garden on the Central Island. These are from Dover Bay Secondary in North Nanaimo. And they have created a food forest. For those of you that aren't familiar with food forest, it's an idea around gardening with perennials and gardening with our vertical space as well. So food forests often have fruit trees, and underneath that shrubs, and underneath that lower fruit and vegetable production. Food forests also often combine pollinator species and habitat creating species. Sometimes they include native plants as well, and can be a really vibrant space that invites habitat as well as students in to explore the connections and the food produced in these gardens. This specific food forest has a real focus on seed saving. So as you can see in the picture below that, there are students sorting through their seeds. They plant species particularly that they want to save the seeds from, and every year they have an annual seed sale, which is a fundraiser to help support community members. So they've incorporated that element also into their school garden. And I'm seeing that increasingly popular in school gardens is not only learning about seed saving, but creating fundraisers out of it as well, or at least giving those seeds out in the community. So those are two ideas that you might want to incorporate into your thought patterns around school gardens.
And the ones on the left are from Colquitt's Middle School on SD 61, and you're on Vancouver Island. And I love they have you know, a fence space with raised beds, but and there's chickens in the middle, of course, just to keep it fun. But they're using the outside of the fencing space as well. There's lots of lupins and other plants growing around the outside. And it's a very inviting space to be in, with the wood chip pathways and beds of different sizes, and still using organic shapes of the beds. And the edible landscaping on the top there, they made these concrete beds and you can see the soccer field just on the other side of it. And it makes a really nice border, kind of lining the edge of the field. So there's incorporating some fruit trees that are along there and strawberries. And it makes it a really nice space to be in. It's not just, anyway, what we want to give you the idea is that school gardens are going to look different at every school, and don't feel that it has to look a particular way, but you do want to make sure that it's manageable. We are going to talk about this a lot more in our next workshop in February. February 14th, there'll be the next one. So if you're in the design phase, make sure to sign up for that one. But we just wanted to get you thinking a little bit so that when you are working with your garden committee, that you're thinking about, what do I want my garden to look like? What is my why? What do I want the outcomes to be before, we're set in stone into this one design that you're not so excited about.
Addie, I'm going to jump back into PowerPoint. So one more moment here as I stop share and move back to our original thing. Thanks for your patience as there's always got to be something with Zoom, I feel like.
Of course.
Okay. Here we are. Great. Addie, is the screen back as it was? Okay, awesome. So we're going to now go into our last section on our workshop agenda today, and that's talking about connections. We've talked about the school connections within the school on your committee between administrators, teachers, parents, and now we're going to look more broadly. We're going to look both at the school district level, talking about connections with your school district and connections with the facilities department. And then zooming out even further, we're going to look at connections with community organizations, neighbors, and other school gardens. So starting with looking at school districts, depending on where you are in your garden process, if you're right at the beginning of that, it's a really wonderful time to take a look at your school district's policies and plans and see how their policy and plans might align to support your garden. Maybe you're trying to get the administrator in your school on board, and looking at the school district's policy and plans may help you get them on board. Or maybe you're running into some restrictions that you need to understand. And so again, going to the school district plans. The first place to look is often the strategic plan of your school district. Many school districts have written right into their strategic plan a goal to support environmental stewardship and sustainability. So the example here is from the Nanaimo Ladysmith School District, and one of their 4 goals is supporting environmental sustainability. And this can be really key to make sure that the administrators know that your school garden is helping move the school district further towards their strategic goal. Another plan to look for, some school districts have environmental plans. So again, this is an example from the Nanaimo School District, and they've just come out with a really innovative environmental stewardship action plan. And right in that action plan, they have written that they have an objective to support all students having equitable and inclusive access to gardens and growing food opportunities. So if you are running into troubles with administrators or with school district policies, knowing these plans and communicating how the school garden moves these plans forward can be really helpful. Another layer of policy that you want to take a look into is to see if your school district has specific garden policy. So some school districts have really broad garden policy, and they just state, as the one I pulled up, their school district 61 in Victoria, that they support school gardens, and it's great to have that policy. Other policies are much more specific in terms of how school gardens are going to look in their district. So they might specify how wide the paths need to be, how tall the beds need to be accessible by students with different needs. Knowing these policies is really important in knowing what sort of timeline can you expect to move forward with your school garden from your design phase to your actual building phase, as some of these policies stipulate how that building can happen and what different stages you need to move through the district before you can start to build. So knowing these policies early on in the process can help you with your overall planning, making sure that your timelines are reasonable and reflective of the policies that you may need to work with. So take a look. That said, don't be surprised if you don't find a garden policy or don't find environmental policy for your school districts. This is more common in the larger school districts where they're really trying to create procedures such that they are being fair and equitable in how those gardens are being built. So take a look, and if you don't find that, that's understandable. And if you're having a trouble finding it too, maybe reach out to a community animator, because we spend a lot of time working with school districts' plans and policies, and we can help you with that as well. In addition to policies that a school district may have, you will run into different restrictions and challenges, perhaps working with school districts' facilities. So facilities departments are in charge of the grounds at a school, and therefore a lot of the design and operation of your school garden will need to be in alignment with the school district facilities departments. There's a few things we find most commonly that school gardens need to discuss with facilities. However, every school district's different, every facilities department's different, and so you'll need to look at your specific situation. But we wanted to give you a few heads up as you're early on in the design process, just to think about some conversations that you may want to have with your administrator and further with the facilities department to make sure you're planning in accordance with what's possible for your area. So the first thing to think about is water access. Water access can be challenging, especially when schools are closed. So during spring breaks or in the summer, you'll want to know where that water access is and who has control to turning it on and off. It would be great if all school gardens had a faucet right in the garden, but that's not often the case. I've seen these like mazes of hoses being dragged all around schoolyards. So look at where your water access is. Another thing you want to think about early on in the process is what fencing requirements may be for your school district. Some school districts require chain link fencing, and some school districts require that the facility department installs that chain link fencing. That can be a significant cost. And so if you're early in your process looking at your budget, consider what sort of fencing requirements you might be working with. Another thing you want to think about, the school district facilities may have requirements around garden design, around building materials, around what can be included on the site. Some districts do not allow permanent structures such as garden sheds to be on those sites. Some districts require certain substrates such as gravel to be in between garden beds. So look into that. You'll also want to think about composting. Many school districts have requirements around composting such that the compost bin be rodent proof, or perhaps what materials are allowed or not allowed in the compost system. So if you're dreaming of having a compost, make sure that aligns with the requirements of the facilities department. Lastly, another thing that you want to consider is some types of plants aren't permitted in school gardens. Some facility departments do not allow things like fruit trees in your school garden. So it's great to have all our visions, but we need to also ground that in some of the realities, some of the systems that you're working in. Like Addie said, look at the system, look at the bigger system your garden's part of, and making sure you're working within that. And we will be looking deeper at school district policies at our discussion group next week. So if there's some nitty gritty about how does this apply to my specific situation, we're happy to chat that through and brainstorm some ideas at our discussion group. The other connections you'll want to consider is what connections are out there in the community. Many communities have community organizations with food security missions. These community organizations can provide a wide range of support. Sometimes community organizations have staff to provide educational opportunities in the gardens for your students. Sometimes they can connect you with other community resources. They can help you recruit volunteers. They might have regional specific curriculum that you can use. Some community centers have community kitchens where you might be able to take some of your food and process it for a fundraiser in their community kitchen. I've even known one community organization that has staff that helps support schools' gardens in the summer. So reach out to the community organizations in your area to see what programs and supports they may have for a school garden. I also really recommend reaching out to your local farmers. I was in one school garden, and every year a local farmer dropped off all their extra transplants, all their seedlings, and it gave this amazing boost to our garden every spring. So reach out to local farmers. They also have great wisdom about what grows well, what doesn't grow well. And they also maybe can come in and do an educational opportunity, or maybe you can go out to their farm to help broaden the learning in your garden as well. So connect with the farmers, connect with your neighbors. I mentioned earlier an example where our school garden was adjacent to a senior center, and we had seniors come over and spend a lot of time in the garden. That intergenerational learning was amazing. So look what senior centers are there, what daycares might be nearby, especially looking at summertime, having those neighborhood connections can be really great. Addie also mentioned another connection is master gardeners. Master gardeners have required volunteer service hours, and they can be really helpful, especially in this design phase, helping you design your garden and select the right plants for where you're growing. One last connection to consider is other schools in the area. There's a program in Parksville where the elementary and high school partnered, and the elementary students visited the high school garden throughout the year. And that partnership between schools can also be really supportive. And don't forget post-secondary education and educational institutions in that too. And that sometimes university students, part of their coursework is community connections and support of community projects. So reach out to that level too. I know this is overwhelming early on when you're still just like getting your ideas forming, but we just want to make sure that you're aware that you have a system around you that is also there to help sustain your garden, to help bring joy and support into your garden. And it's also an opportunity for your garden to have an impact out in the community too. So to have an impact beyond just the school parameters, but to draw people from the community in and share those positive benefits as well. So that's a quick overview of some of the connections, and I'm going to pass it back to Addie.
So just as Tessa mentioned, we will be diving deeper into talking about the school garden committee and the school district policy, any navigation. So if you have questions or follow-up or more specific things, the discussion group will be next Thursday, so February 2nd, again, 3:30 to 4:30. If you can only come at 4, come when you can. It doesn't need to be the whole hour. But it'll be a really nice space to talk to each other more and see what folks are coming up with for solutions and how we can build more school gardens across the province. Our next workshop is February 14th, a lovely love day. And we have Megan Zenny, who's going to be joining us and sharing her infinite wisdom on garden design and play. We're going to be talking more about specific plants to, again, align with your goals and your vision for the garden, thinking about perennials versus annuals, thinking about maybe I just want to grow in the spring or just the fall, and getting more into the garden design. So if that is relevant to where you are in your school garden journey, you can sign up for that. It would be great to see you. How are you feeling? Are you feeling good? Are you overwhelmed? Let us know. You can just type in the chat box, just 1 or 2 words. Ready. Great. Supported. Yes, we are here for you. We are yeah, it's nice to have a monthly workshop so that we're going to tell you what's coming up this month and what you should be thinking about, because it's really overwhelming to think about what am I going to do through the whole year. Awesome. Sounds like folks are feeling good. Okay, great. We didn't want to overwhelm anybody. We wanted to give you a heads up. Farm to School BC is having a conference. Hooray! It is in May at UBC. So we're calling out for proposals right now. If you want to present, you can come talk about your school. If you have an amazing school garden, we would love to hear from you. If you want to come to the conference, registration is going to be opening soon. So you can go onto our main website and link from there, or the link is on this slide as well. It's going to be really fun and meeting lots of other educators in one space in person. And it's going to be a really inspirational conference. And it's called Planting the Seed. So, we want to inspire you. Again, we have our hubs. So if you are within one of these school districts here, you can check our website. If it's, and my apologies, it might be a little hard to read this text, and see if you have a community animator for your region. We don't quite cover the whole province yet, but we're working on it. And as always, please reach out to Tessa or myself. Here are our email addresses. Or if you join the listserv, you can get in touch with everyone else. I think we're going to be ending a few minutes early today, which is wonderful. We would love to hear what you thought of the session today. Filling out our feedback form, what you want more of, what you want less of, what worked. We read all of them, and we're very reflective and trying to make sure that this is a space where you can get what you need. So we look forward to hearing your responses or seeing them, I guess. And as always, everything is on our website, farmtoschoolbc.ca. Wonderful. I'm going to stop the recording.